YouTube and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about cultural differences and how they can be seen through translations and media titles. The cultures and the languages that I will be looking at in specific are obviously American English and Italian, because those are the two cultures that I know the best. If you guys aren't following me already on Twitter or Instagram, you should definitely be following me on there. I come out with daily content on those two platforms, and they're a bit more real, a little less advertiser friendly, and we like to have a good old time over there. But back to the point. So Italian translators, and especially translations of foreign films, foreign book titles, are very famous for really using creative license and sometimes being a little bit random. But I think that this just really highlights the fact that translating is not an easy task. You can take a bunch of words from one language, translate them word for word in another language, and see that the same phrases mean something completely different. Or alternatively, the translation makes no sense, or it makes sense, but it just sounds stupid. Let's look at some famous soap opera titles to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Titles can be loosely translated like the way Days of Our Lives became Il Tempo della Nostra Vita, which literally means the time of our lives, because quite frankly, that sounds better and more poetic than Giorni della Nostra Vita. Otherwise, they can be changed completely, like in the case of The Young and the Restless, which became Febbre dell'amore in Italian, or love fever. In this specific example, we can see that restless means multiple things in Italian: agitata, irrequieto, insonne, or simply mai soddisfatto. So instead of trying to fit all of these meanings into one title, or trying to just pick one of the meanings when actually we mean all of them, they just came up with another name, which transmits the same feeling of the original title. Young and the Restless screams passion and heat and drama, and quite frankly, so does Love Fever. My last example of this would be The Bold and the Beautiful, which in Italian is just beautiful. There isn't an Italian word that is exactly the same as bold and means all the same things. So again, instead of wasting time trying to look for one, just cut it out, and Bold and the Beautiful became beautiful. I grew up my whole life with my mom watching soap operas like Bold and the Beautiful, because her mom before her watched them in Jamaica, and now that I'm in Italy, literally every summer when we stay at Enrico's house, Beautiful is on after lunch because his mom is a fan. If anything, I think that this shows that no matter what the title, soap operas are universal. And as I pass into young womanhood, maybe I should get started on some soap operas, I don't know. A lot of the modern day fairy tales that we know and love, especially among the younger generations and generations younger than mine, are only associated with the American Walt Disney or Pixar or something like that, when in reality, these stories have been told and retold, passed down and tweaked from different cultures and different countries for hundreds of years. Let's look at Sleeping Beauty, or La Bella Addormentata nel Bosco in Italian. It's the story of a princess that falls into a cursed sleep on her 16th birthday after pricking her finger on a spinning wheel. The title is in fact literally translated across many languages as Sleeping Beauty or The Beauty That Fell Asleep, but for some reason in Italian they attached on that nel bosco to the La Bella Addormentata, and I just wonder why, especially because technically, based on my extremely scientific research, she fell asleep in a tower. Another interesting consideration / title incoherence would be Cinderella, or Cenerentola in Italian. Did you know that while the oldest record of an oral retelling of Cinderella comes from Egypt, the oldest record of a written retelling of a Cinderella story is actually Italian, and it was written by an Italian guy named Giambattista Basile from Naples. Now, he wrote a story about a girl named Zezzola, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and it was a bit more violent, but hey, the title of said story was called La Gatta Cenerentola, which was later picked up and adapted by this French writer named Perrault, who called it Cendrillon, which was much later adapted to the American Cinderella, which we all know and love. I just think it's really interesting to note that one of the original Cinderellas was Italian, but we, and I feel like even Italians, probably associate it more with America or at most the Grimm brothers. Who would have thought? And one of the strangest things to me about the different translations within Cinderella is how somehow Prince Charming turned into Principe Azzurro, the Blue Prince. Why Boo. The light blue prince. Sorry, Enrico would kill me if I translated azzurro with blue. I can talk about fairy tales all day, but I won't bore you with that. All I have to say is you guys should definitely check out the original Italian version of Little Red Riding Hood, which was actually La Finta Nonna, the fake grandma. Already from the title, I can tell that it's something that is worth knowing about. I'm sure Italians know Cappuccetto Rosso, or the Italian version of the American adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood, but I think La Finta Nonna really deserves an honorable mention as well. Now let's look at some of my favorite movie titles and the Italian translations. The first one I wanted to look at was Hidden Figures versus Il diritto di contare. I love this movie, and if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. It's based off a true story about a group of spectacular African-American women during the American Civil Rights era. The woman whom the main character is based off of actually just recently passed away at the age of 101. It's a very feel-good movie and very positive, especially for young little black girls. But anyways, back to the title. The English title is called Hidden Figures, which is obviously a play on the concept of math and the fact that the main character is a mathematician whose calculations and contributions were used to get the first man successfully on the moon. Now, the title also refers to the fact that these women are literally hidden historical figures, because up until the movie came out, many people in the American public, myself included, didn't even know that these women or their contributions existed. They're literally hidden historical figures to American history despite the huge historical implications of their work. The title in Italian, Il diritto di contare, literally translates to the right to count. So obviously they're talking about the right to count literally, and so numbers, and hence the concept of math, but also the right to be valued and the right to be important. The title also uses a play on words to refer to the fact that the story takes place during the African-American civil rights movement in America, and therefore acknowledges that struggle. I'd say that the translation is pretty good. The English one is more direct and acknowledges the fact that accomplishments of Black Americans and Black cultures are often overlooked in the West, especially in America, and at least in American society, that direct message was very appreciated. Let's look at Bruce Almighty versus Una Settimana da Dio. Bruce Almighty is a funny and lighthearted movie starring Jim Carrey. I remember liking it as a kid, and the title obviously refers to the fact that the main character, Bruce, gets to play the role of God for a while. The Italian translation, Una Settimana da Dio, can be translated literally into a few different things in English, such as a week as God. Literally the plot. An amazing week, because Italians refer to really great things as being godly. For example, questo top ti sta da Dio means that top looks amazing on you. It looks divine on you. It can also mean a week at God's house, because when you say da and the name of somebody, like io sto da Enrico, like I'm staying at Enrico's house, so literally him being in God's place. That said, I think that this time the Italian translation is pretty good, makes sense in both Italian and English. Meanwhile, it's interesting enough to intrigue audiences, because that doesn't always happen. I'd say good job to whoever came up with that one. Last example, Easy A versus Easy Girl. I'd say that the English title is a reference to the title and the concept of The Scarlet Letter, which is an American literary classic by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's a teen comedy, and many American teens probably would have been reading the book at the same time or had read the book before the movie had come out. So in that sense, it worked. Meanwhile, since the movie had to do with high school, the title Easy A can also be a reference to the American grading system. So all things considered, title makes sense. Meanwhile, the Italian translation, Easy Girl, means exactly what you think it means. But I feel like because it's English and not Italian, it works in Italy. I would guess that the title wouldn't have the same reception by an Italian audience as it would to an English-speaking one, because I don't know, in English we're just not so direct about calling girls in the titles of our movies. I don't know. It's a bit excessive, but like I said, in a foreign language, almost anything sounds cool or goes, I guess. In fairness to whoever came up with the title, A facile or una facile a does sound pretty terrible, and also probably wouldn't make sense since the Italian grading system is based on numbers and not letters. They would have lost all the different connections. I guess this one is a debatable one. I don't know. You guys tell me. All this was to say, have you guys ever stopped to really think that deeply about translations? I have just about every single time somebody's ever asked me, ehi Tia, ma puoi tradurre questa cosa? Ci vuole solo un attimo, super veloce, 2 frasi, 3 frasi, anzi volevo dire 2 paragrafi. In inglese, dall'italiano all'inglese, super facile per te, no? Non è mai un attimo. It's never just a second. It's hard to translate things. There are so many things to take into consideration, and half the time, that stuff just don't make sense in English. Translators are basically magicians, and I think we need to be way more appreciative of them. Round of applause to my bilingual copywriters out there. I salute you. What are your favorite translations of different texts or titles? Let me know in the comment section down below, and also let me know how good or bad you think they are. I hope that you guys found this video quasi-entertaining, maybe informational. I'd love to know your guys' opinions. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Mwah.